For the past week or so, I've been playing Fuser, the latest game by the creators of Rock Band and Guitar Hero Harmonix. I'd been looking forward to it for the best part of the year and was really interested to see whether or not its core gameplay of mixing together different instruments taken from lots of different songs, like your Calvin Harris, or is Calvin Harris even a relevant DJ anymore, would even work. And I'm really happy to be sat here today to tell you that yes, the core gameplay of Fuser not only works, it's somehow better than I expected, and in general it's a really good game. But there are some caveats there because it might not be for everyone. So if you don't know, Fuser is sort of a rhythm game that puts you in the role of a DJ, allowing you to mix together separate tracks taken from about 100 popular songs. But this isn't a traditional rhythm game like Guitar Hero or even DJ Hero, where you're required to hit buttons in time to notes. Instead, you're sort of in charge of curating the track itself. So basic gameplay sees you mixing together elements such as, let's say, the beat from Billie Eilish's Bad Guy with the strings from 50 Cent's In the Club alongside the trumpets from Lizzo's Good as Hell, and let's say the vocal track from Sean Paul's Temperature, which I am disgusted to admit might be the perfect song because the vocals from Temperature go with literally everything. So you pull all of these separate tracks down onto your decks and the game just marries them together. It glues them together and it makes something that sounds good. The game dynamically makes the tracks work, it kind of matches them together, and hearing these disparate tracks and indeed disparate genres blend together is honestly, it's pure magic. Whatever's powering this mashup program is absolutely incredible, although I do believe it's based on a similar project Harmonix worked on called Dropmix, which was a physical card game, but the idea was the same. You would put down cards and they would be separate tracks from a song. Now, in general, it does work really well, but sometimes it sounds a little bit off, especially with vocals. Sometimes you might make an absolute monstrosity that's a bit too slow and you'll put the vocals down to Take On Me and it sounds like people drowning and it's not good. But as someone who has zero music knowledge, I am tone deaf to shit and I can't play any instruments, and music production is something I love the thought of being able to do, but I do not have the skills or the understanding to do it properly. I found myself putting together mixes that sounded genuinely impressive, and 90% of my time playing Fuser involved me sitting and just bobbing my head, just bopping away as I put together a set that worked really well and entertained the crowd. And it's in these moments that Fuser feels genuinely incredible. It allows you to live the fantasy of being a headlining DJ at a festival that feels more realistic and immersive than anything Harmonix have ever made in the past. It feels so much better than Rock Band and Guitar Hero because you're more in control than you ever have been in games like that before. So you'll start Fuser by playing through its campaign, which is effectively just an extended tutorial. You DJ on different stages at a festival, and you work your way up to headline the stage before moving on to the next one. Each stage is managed by a different character. Each of them are awful and terrible in every way, to the point where I would recommend you just skip past the cutscenes because they ruin the whole vibe of the game, to be honest.
Are you hearing this? That bass line is so sick. I'm like, gosh, should we take it to the hospital?
But each of these DJs teach you different tricks and techniques to make you a better DJ. You start off just by putting down different tracks in order to keep an audience happy. You have a bar that tells you how happy your audiences are, much like in Rock Band, and audiences are kept happy by constantly swapping out tracks and creating new mixes, as well as fulfilling requests from audience members. Audience members will shout up and say, hey, I want a song from the 1990s, or I want want to hear Lizzo's good as hell, and if you fulfill their request, you get a bit of a boost to your audience happiness meter, whatever that's called. But as you progress through each stage, the complexity of Fuser becomes more and more apparent, with layers and layers of additional tools becoming available to you as the game progresses. So what starts as a very, very simple idea that you just pull down different tracks from songs and mix them together in order to keep the audience happy becomes a relatively advanced mixing tool with a game sort of loosely wrapped around it as it becomes more and more complex. As well as just swapping tracks, you're able to mute them, isolate them, eject discs at certain times, place multiple of the same tracks on your decks, fade them in, fade them out, play custom instruments and create loops that can then be added to your decks. You can adjust the BPM of your entire mix, you can adjust the key, you can play it in either major or minor, you can put different effects on either individual tracks or on your entire mix, you can set them to be auto-played and swap between them so the effect is applied to the same track. And even with all of this additional complexity layered on top, the game only ever wants you to enact everything that you do on beat in order to keep the audience happy. But about 3 hours into your playthrough, you start to realize that Fuser isn't so much a game as it is a music creation tool. Not a full-fledged one. Harmonix haven't made Ableton Live. I assume that's what people use to make music with these days. This is still very much an entertainment tool, but it's way too complex to consider it an accessible rhythm game. If you're expecting Fuser to be something like DJ Hero, I'm afraid that it's not. It's an evolution of that idea, but it's so much more involved and deep than DJ Hero ever hoped to be. If you're looking for a DJ Hero equivalent, by the way, you need Spin Rhythm XD. There's a review on this channel. That game is what you're after. As you progress through the campaign, you almost start to feel like the game elements of Fuser kind of get in the way of what you want to do. Because creating a good mix is such an abstract, nebulous thing. I might have made a mix that sounds really, really good, for instance, and I'm really feeling it and I'm really getting into it, and I found a combination that works really well. I've bumped the BPM up, I've got some effects going on, and I'm just like isolating the vocals every time there's like the chorus is kicking in. And if I was in a nightclub, I can hear myself being like, wow, this DJ is really killing it. But the campaign is telling me to swap tracks out and do different things, and the audience members don't want the vocals anymore, they want something different. And even though I've created something that I feel like is objectively really, really good, the game doesn't know that. And as a result, my happiness bar is dropping at a really quick rate because I haven't swapped out the tracks recently enough, and I've missed a few audience requests because they're not requesting something that would work with my current selection of mixes. And I guess that's my only issue with the campaign, is that at some point you'll get too good and you'll be really feeling your own abilities, but the game itself will want you to keep quote-unquote playing it in a way that doesn't really marry up with the tools it's giving you. Now thankfully there's a free play mode that lets you just mess around and have fun, and I found myself gravitating towards that more as I finished the campaign. And you can save mixes, you can share them, you can contribute to little competitions and get other people to rate what you've been doing. And I think that's the longevity of Fuser, is this freestyle mode where you just get to basically play around with kind of simplistic mixing tools and become the DJ you've always hoped you could be without having to learn anything about music. Fuser does all the heavy lifting, and it's in that moment that Fuser is this brilliant, amazing thing. But it's just a shame that as a game, I think it's going to be really hard to communicate that with the general public. Honestly, it feels the same as Dreams. Dreams is this incredible suite of such easy to use tools that allow anyone to materialize ideas they might have had without having to learn complex software programming. But the lasting appeal is difficult to gauge. The average person who loved Guitar Hero or even DJ Hero, which was a bit more complicated, might find this difficult to use and not appealing as a result. But I think for everyone else, there's something really, really special here. Now, I played it on PC, I used a mouse and keyboard, and trying to balance all of the things the game demands you to in the campaign, or indeed all of the things you might want to have access to make a mix that sounds good, was fiddly using that interface. So I haven't played it on PlayStation 4, Xbox, or Switch. Very, very interested to hear how it works on a controller. I can imagine it being very, very fiddly, I hope it translates, I hope it's very easy to use, but yeah, maybe I'm preempting other people's reviews here, but I can imagine people not really gelling with it on a controller. I feel like it needs to be on a mouse and keyboard. I'm hoping I'm proven wrong by that. There's also a lot of customization. You can customize your DJ and you unlock loads of different costumes and big Daft Punk and Deadmau5 style helmets. You can unlock loads of different patterns and really customize and make a DJ that looks like trash but like a real DJ. You can customize what tracks you bring with you in your crate. You can take snapshots of mixes that work really well. You can even customize the fireworks that go off on your stage, the color scheme, what shows on the panels behind you. Harmonix have really given you a lot to play around with here, and again it just kind of reinforces that idea that this is more of a playful tool than a traditional rhythm game. The music selection itself is really good too. There's a lot of country here, which I'm not really sure why. I don't know who was calling out for a DJ simulator that allows you to be a country specific DJ, but if you want to make mixes about tractors or whatever, you can. If you really love trucks, you can do it. But in general, there's a lot of great dance and R&B and hip hop and rap and rock that gel together really, really well. You can just tell that a lot of thought went into creating a catalogue of tracks that work well together, but are also recognizable, so you get that star factor of like, oh, Nicki Minaj's Starship, I know that, yeah, that's cool, I'll pop that in and have fun finding out what the individual instruments sound like when they're isolated from one another. One thing Harmonix are really, really good at, especially with Rock Band, is long-term support, so I'm really hoping that they release a lot of additional DLC further down the line. I'd love to buy some new tracks, I'd love to just mess around with them. So to wrap this up, Fuser is something magic, if a bit messy. It might not be the game you want it to be, but if you just let it teach you and be what it is, I think there's a lot of fun to be found here. It's unlike anything else I've ever played. It's a rhythm game that offers so much freedom, but also complexity, and I just really hope that it has some longevity to it, because there's something here that I really, really enjoy. So yeah, I'll recommend Fuser. I think it's not for everyone, but I think if you're looking for an interesting rhythm game that isn't confined in a way that most of them are, I think you'll find something that you really enjoy here. Thank you very much for watching this rambly review. If you enjoyed this, please do consider liking the video and subscribe to the channel for more reviews like this. I put a new video up every Sunday, so hit that subscribe button and comment, I guess. Just engage with the video to get the algorithm to notice me, YouTube Senpai. Thank you very much for watching.